Hey there, welcome to Authentically Raw. I'm your host, Jamie Berris.
Marquette L. Walker, welcome to the Authentically Raw podcast. How are you?
I am good. How about yourself?
I'm fantastic. Hey, it's sunny here in Michigan, and it is what? Today is September 17th, and it is, I think, going to be in the mid to upper 80s here today. So I love hot weather. What's there not to be happy about, right?
Well, you know what? And I'm down in the South. I'm in North Carolina, and it's gloomy, it's cloudy,
Oh,
it's rainy, and I think the highs are only going to be in the low 70s. So how in the world did that change, right?
I know, right? Hey, I'll take it, right? We're supposed to be like this, I believe, for another week. Yeah, I'll
Mhm.
send some your way, but hey, excited for this conversation. First off, you are a minister, an inspirational speaker, a coach, an author, and I'm sure you have a million other things under your belt, um,
Yeah.
with who you are. And I just have to throw in, this just popped into my head, so it has to be said. Number one, a child of God. That just popped in. So I feel like that is, we go around, what are you? Who are you? What do you do? And we list our titles, or, I'm a mom to this, I'm a wife of that, I run this company, I work here, and it's like first and foremost. So yeah, you're a child of God. And I love that.
First and
And
foremost. Yes.
you're a light already, I can tell. So please tell us more about you.
Yeah, so I always tell people, God has entrusted me with multiple hats, and you said most minister, a coach, a motivational speaker, and I am an author of Divorced but Not Defeated. I am a wife. I am a mother of two biological. They are 29 and 30 years old. Absolutely love them. Amazing young men. I wanted daughters, but they brought me daughter-in-law, so I'm good. And granddaughters, so I'm good. I also am a mother of four bonus babies aging from the age of 24. Wait, there's 24, 22, 14, will be 14 next month, and then a 11-year-old. So God has entrusted me with a lot going on, and then um I'm the owner and CEO of Marquette L Walker Ministries. Along with that, oh my goodness, Marquette's Closet. I tell people we like to cultivate the inside of a person, but we wanted to reflect on the outside. So Marquette's Closet came about, and so I sell discounted clothes at awesome clothes at a discounted rate. So we want people to look good on the outside. Um, so I have Marquette's Closet. Then we have let me see, Winning Women's Coaching. I know a lot of people say, what is that? What does that look like? Well, I am here to help women heal so they can win. And that's all wrapped up in my story. And I'm pretty sure we'll talk about that soon. And then we also have Marquette Walker Business Solutions that's just started. Oh my goodness, where we're delivering pharmaceuticals to all the nursing homes. So we're helping God's people. We look at it, when I say we, my husband and I, we look at it as a servant unto God and also his people. So we don't look at it as a job. We're just helping God's people. And then lastly, but not least, Marquette L. Walker Interior Designs. I love to design homes and all that good stuff. So yeah, so that's my thing.
Oh my goodness. That's a lot of things.
A lot of things. Yes.
Oh,
Right.
a little bit about your story. Everybody has a story. So just
Absolutely.
tell me your story.
Absolutely. So, my story. I used to call myself the modern day woman at the well. So, I'm pretty sure there'll be a lot of Bible scholars that watch this, but for the ones that are not Bible scholars, she is found in John chapter 4. So y'all have to read about her story. She was married 5 times. I also was married 5 times. But mine stemmed from, yeah, people like, what really? How did that happen? Well, a lot of times we are dealing with childhood trauma, fear, shame, guilt, all these things that we have not addressed in life. And it all stems back from our childhood. And if you don't address those, that you carrying that along into your adulthood and into relationships and also into marriages, as I did. So I call it, I was bleeding on God's people because I'm bleeding on the inside. And I'm carrying all these wounds and stuff and bleeding on the inside. And now I'm bleeding on God's people, right? And so, and when I talk about childhood trauma, that's where it stemmed from. I was born and raised in the church. Absolutely loving it. I mean, born and raised, pretty much born on the pews. That's how much I was in church, right? And so while I was growing up in church, I saw these awesomely amazing marriages. I mean, people were so loving and kind to each other. But that was in church. No one told me, no one told me the behind the scenes stuff that you go through in marriage, right? So I fell in love with what I saw marriage should be, and I thought it should be. So I kept saying, one day that is going to be me. I'm going to be happily married, right? But not knowing the ins and outs, the ups and downs that come along with it. So in 1995, I get married, and I'm looking around for help at this point because nobody told me the stuff that I was going through. You go through that in marriage. So it ended up ending in a divorce. And let me go back just a little bit. My mom and my dad, they were married for 18 years. And you pretty much know the ins and outs, ups and downs of each other. And you don't marry for divorce. My mom did not marry for divorce. Well, my dad decided to divorce my mom. And I remember the day she came home from court, and I seen these big crocodile tears rolling down her face. And I saw the hurt, I saw abandonment, I saw rejection. And me, I was only 11 years old. So I saw all of this from someone that I love so dearly. I internalized all of that. So I carried all of that childhood trauma. And so now it affected every relationship, whether it was business, whether it was personal, whether it was a romantic relationship. It affected all of those relationships. And not to mention, my dad, I had an issue with him. This is my mom. How dare you hurt her like this? And so that ultimately made me not trust men. It made me not have grace, not have patience. And these are things that you have to have in marriage. You have to be able to forgive. You have to be able to have grace, patience, and accountability. I had none of that.
Yeah.
None. So you did me wrong, you were done. So that's what happened. So I carried all of that. And it wasn't until I was able to come to a place that by the time I got to number three is like, oh my goodness, there's got to be something wrong. But I did not know that. But God was telling me between 2 and 3, baby girl, there's something wrong. I'm trying to show you. I'm trying to get you to a place to heal, but you're running away from your childhood traumas. And so you can't heal. And so I didn't know what to do with those downloads at that time. But then my dad, I remember my dad saying, I invited him to the third one, my third marriage, and he said, marriage have their ups and downs, their ins and outs. But when you get to number 3, it's you. And I'm like, how dare you? Did you forget you divorced my mom? I'm just going in. Disrespectful. You would have never thought I was raised in a church the way I talked to my father. But I remember the scripture saying, honor thy father and thy mother, that your days may be long on the earth. And I just saw my days going down real quick. Like they were dwindling down fast. And I'm like, I need to hurry up and call my dad and apologize. Now, granted, it wasn't the next day. It wasn't even the next week. It wasn't even the next month. It was probably about 4 months later. But I realized that was the starting of my healing journey, is to forgive my dad and understand what him and my mom had. That was between him, my mom, and God. It wasn't between my mom and myself and my dad. It was that's God's playing field, right? And so at that point, that was my starting point of my healing journey. And so that's what I am here for, to help women heal so they can win. And that's how I was able to start write my debut book, Divorced But Not Defeated.
I love that.
is-
So, okay, so then that was 3, but then you had the
Yes.
4th, the timeline here.
Yeah. So
Point
look, I tell people I had so many marriages, I had to name them. I named the first one. Number 1 was naive, just simply naive. I didn't know. I just want to be married. I saw I wanted what I saw in church, right?
Yeah.
Also, so I got married, naive, just naive. Number 2, I call that shame on me, because I married the same guy in a different body. The same exact, going through the same exact things, right? And then number 3, I tell people, now understand, I did not heal yet. So I'm still jacked up on the inside. And then my mother passed away. So I tell people, do not make a life-changing decision when you are going through grief. Because when you come up out of it, you're like, what in the world did I do? And that's where I was. I was like, what in the world did I do? And so it was very short lived. So that was a divorce. Now between 3 and 4, this is my time. I'm finally getting it. I said, God, I need you to come and see about me. So now I intentionally start dating God. People say, what is that? What does that look like? I'm glad you asked. Let me tell you what that is. So I spent intentional one-on-one time with God. I mean, I journaled, I meditated, I prayed, I fasted, and I was intentional. I learned who Marquette was, right? I learned self-care, took myself on a date. Oh my God, how good that felt to take your own self, spend your own money on yourself, right? So it was amazing. But I was so intentional. And let me tell you, Jamie, the men came for me, but you know what I said? They used to say, well, let me give you my number. Nope, I don't need your number. Then they will say, well, we could just be friends. Nope, I don't want you to be my friend. I have a friend in Jesus. That's all I need right now. Right? Well, let me take you. Nope, I don't need you to take me on a date. I can take myself. I was just really intentional, no nonsense. Like I needed to get this because I said, there is something wrong. And I really need to come in alignment. This is God's playing field. Marriage is God's playing field. So if I'm not together, how can I go on God's playing field expecting things to work the way God wants them to work, right? And so now I took intentional 6 years off. I did not date. I did not do any of that. I dated God. It was me and him, and I was very intentional. And in that time, I really dived into God's word. I was at church, I was getting the word, and I was like, okay, I'm getting it. Now I know who God is. I know who I am to him. I know how much he loved me in spite of all the stuff I've been through. He still loves me. And then now I can in turn love myself. So now I'm loving Marquette. And when you get to that point, you're like, that one right there ain't it. That one there right there, that ain't it either. You can see now. And so that's where I was. And so now between 3 and 4, so now I did all of that. And now I thought I was ready. So now 4 comes along, and now I tell people, understand, the enemy knows what you like, the enemy knows what you want, and trust me, the counterfeit will come before the real thing. So even though he was in church, met him in church, and I just thought it was okay, this is it. It's gotta be it. He was mature, he had it going on. I'm like, okay, this is it. He was older than me, so I said, oh, he's stable. Mm-mm. No, that wasn't it. That was a test. It was a test. And so I said, that's okay. So then the enemy tried to make me feel, look at you, you're a failure again. You failed at marriage again. And you're steady trying this and you steady believing God for this marriage thing, right? But God said, no, baby girl, you didn't fail. What you've learned in this is you learn grace. You learn patience. You learn forgiveness. And now you're holding yourself accountable. You know what accountability looks like, right? So I internalized all that. And now it did hurt in the beginning. It hurt it for about a month or so. But then I went back to the drawing board, back at the well. I tell people I'll go right back to the well. And guess what? God met me right back at the well. And I'm going to tell you, number 5, yeah, he done blessed me with this tall drink of lemonade. I tell people he is a tall drink of lemonade. We lock arms together and we let people know that it can work. Marriages aren't perfect. You have your ups and your downs, but now you know how to deal with it. When your foundation is right, when the foundation is built on God, that's all you need, right? Because then you know how to go back to the source. And this is God's playing field, remember? So if you having issues, you know who to go to. God, you're going to go to God because this is his playing field. He's the only one that can help you out through this thing, right? And so that's where I am. And so now I am married to number 5. Last but not, he is last. And we're just doing this thing, letting people know that it can work. It can work. And I'm helping women understand no matter what you've been through, no matter what you go through, God is right there to come and see about you and help you through the issues of life, because life be lifing. We know that life be lifing, but we have to understand who to lean and depend on, which is God, because he'll come and see about you. And I always I'll let women know that it is very important. The first step to this healing, because I was on a long healing journey.
Yeah.
You have got to allow God to stitch those wounds up. A lot of times we think we have, but we have not. And the reason why, Jamie, the reason why I tell my story, because there's so many women still walking around in shame. Divorce is not talked about a lot in church. Why does the church have the highest divorce rate? This is God's playing field, right? That's a question to ask. And then in corporate, Jamie, I was in corporate America. They used to come in my office. I was in management. They saw my plaques on the wall, and they saw all the different last names. They, "Hey, that was you. Oh, that was you." But do you know, I still wore my ring because I didn't want people to know that I was going through a divorce or was already divorced. There's a lot of women doing that because in corporate, they make you feel like you don't have it together. You're unstable. Oh, we can't promote her. She went through a divorce, right? So a lot of women, they hide and they're still walking around in shame in corporate and also in church. And that's why I said, God, wherever you tell me to go, whatever you tell me to say, I'm going to do that because I want to be the catalyst to draw your women to a healing place so they can be blessed and live in abundance.
So true. Oh my gosh, there's so many good nuggets in here. Just so resonating. And just the first thing I want to say, because this is just right on the tip of my tongue, is that I haven't been divorced. My husband and I in a couple weeks have our 25th wedding anniversary coming up, which is great.
Great.
I have a couple other things in my life that over the past 2 years, God has spoken to me relentlessly. Heal yourself, heal yourself first, heal yourself first. Because, I'm trying to do or achieve or fix or save or rescue or whatever things. I'm jumping over myself. And I'm trying to heal myself by doing those things, accomplishing those things, or, and I just resonated so much with how you mentioned, your dad said, okay, like if you're the common denominator. And I think of, okay, so you have all of these husbands and how in each one, not consciously, you knew this, but subconsciously, you were trying to heal that childhood trauma and things through each of these husbands.
Absolutely.
And it was until you can step back. Oh, I don't need those people to heal. They're not going to heal me. In fact, it's causing more pain and more hurt and
absolutely
myself from right now. I'm more alone.
Right.
But we are always so convinced that it's something outside of ourselves, whether it's a person or a thing or an environment or whatever, that is going to heal us. Number one. But number two, half the time, I don't think that we know or we want to face what really needs to be healed inside of us, because that in and of itself is painful, right?
It is.
And I think it is when we can finally humble ourselves, quiet ourselves, but most importantly, for me, and I thought of this a lot when you were speaking, is how it's that finally releasing the control to God and sitting back and receiving it's His love, His grace, His forgiveness, the compassion, and letting Him dissolve all of the shame that we carry. And it is then receiving what we're lacking, but that is the healing process. And until we do that, like how you said you were dating God, and but you're also dating yourself because you are God's creation, but He is part of you.
Absolutely.
We are His flesh and blood too. And it's until you can, I know that that's a lot, and some people, whatever, it's the answer to everything, but it's really until we can hand it over to Him. And I'm not saying it like everything out there. I'm saying it inside of us that needs healing. We will always stay stuck there. And I think
Yeah.
that's hard. It's scary. And we can say how much, because I even caught myself like, oh, of course I trust God, and of course this, and of course that. But then it was like that, really? Do you really?
Do you really?
Because if
That's
you
the thing.
do, then you wouldn't be dealing with this, and this. Those wouldn't be
Absolutely.
problems. I would
Right.
feel all this love. I wouldn't feel shame. I would feel worthy. I would feel unworthy or undeserving of love in true companionship, or, or whatever it is that we're seeking that we feel like we
Right.
lack. But
Yep.
discipline is the right word, but it's the
Mm-hmm.
patience,
It
the
does.
discipline, the letting
Consistent.
go to
Yep.
be able to, for me, it's a receiving. I've never been good at receiving. I'm a giver,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
That's me.
I need to receive God's love, because
Mm.
that was a light bulb thing too, is I can give the love purely and wholeheartedly once I learn to receive it. First and
Absolutely.
foremost to
Right.
ourselves, but then to others. It's like,
Absolutely.
okay, once you do this, I think of like your relationship with God. It's more of like, not more of, but part of it is, it's almost like that channel though, from him to you
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
others.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's very important. It's very important that we know who we are. And we know our value. We know whose we are. Once you learn whose you are, you learn your value. And so when you learn your value, then there's a lot of things that we don't accept, we don't give, and then we're able to love genuinely and receive love genuinely, because we know whose we are. Because our thing is to come in alignment with God. We're modeling him. He's our father. So we want to look, we have his DNA, right? They said you have your father's, your parents' DNA. You model them. You do things like them. Like, oh, that's just in the DNA. Well, we call ourselves kingdom kids. We call ourselves children of God. So we have his DNA. So we're supposed to move like he moved. We're supposed to speak like he speaks, love like he loved, receive love, right? And we won't be able to do that until we know who we are genuinely, and also until we know ourselves genuinely, authentically, and whose we are. Then we could flow in how we need to flow and receive what we need to receive.
But I think that's a part of it, is so often when we're seeking, the love and the healing and everything outside of us first, we don't show up authentic. We don't show up as our genuine selves. We show up as
Nope.
who we think we need to be for the other people to love us and to accept us, because
Absolutely.
we haven't received God's love and acceptance.
That's
And that was a huge turning point for me, because
right.
I don't think I've ever been that type of person that has ever thought like, oh, I need to do this to like earn this love, or, be accepted, or whatever. But when I stepped back and looked at the way I lived my life, like as a lifelong
You
people
could,
pleaser, it's
right.
absolutely positively what I was doing. And
That's it.
I
That's
just
it.
decided, oh, that's right. I don't need to earn anybody's love.
Don't need to
God
earn
loves me.
anybody.
And when I'm full of that, I just am love. And it's, you know what I mean? We're not trying to earn it. And it's the
Right.
same with, I think, being worthy. Um, I know we've all heard, most of us at least, that, you're a child of God and you're inherently worthy. Well, to hear that and to really feel it and step into it and believe it, those are
Yeah.
two total different things. And when
Two
you
different.
mentioned the fact, it's like the next husband was basically the same guy, different body, right? I mean, different face. It's the
Things.
same patterns. And I feel like until we really, I'm going to use the word embodied, like until we
Yeah.
really embody that,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is how we will live our lives, whether it's in our relationships or with career or any, I don't know if
Absolutely.
you want to call it obstacle or whatever problem or anything. It's going to be
Yeah.
just on repeat,
On
until you
repeat.
can really embody it.
That's right.
I jotted this down, and I love this. because I know when you deal, with women and stuff, you talk a lot about
Yes.
making peace with your past,
Yep.
maximizing your present, and
Yep.
deepening relationship with God. And it's really easy for us to look at those three things and say,
Mhm.
I'm making peace with my past, or I have made peace with my past. Yeah, I forgive.
Mhm.
I'm not angry. I'm, all this and this and that. But then
Right.
in the present moment, does your life reflect that? How do you feel about yourself? How do you feel about your current
That's right.
relationships or your, where you are? Um,
Yeah.
and so I think it leaves a lot of people, though, even if they do or don't recognize, where they are at, if they're happy with it or not happy with it, in the struggle
Right.
or feeling good, like wherever that is, I think the big question is, well, how? I do want to make peace with my past. I want to love and love myself and my life in the present moment in strength
Right.
and faith, but I don't know how. What,
Yeah.
help us there. How?
Yeah. The how is, and I tell people, it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
We get to a place where society has told us, it's okay. You got divorced yesterday, and it's okay to be okay today. You're supposed to be okay today. No, it's
You're
okay
so
not to be.
sociopath if that's the truth.
Come on,
You're
yes, it's crazy. Like, really, who does that? Where do they do that at? But the thing first and foremost is, first of all, identifying where you are.
Yeah.
Where am I? Where am I? And then understand I'm not okay. And it's okay not to be okay. The thing is, just don't stay there. We don't want to stay there. And then after that, it's really where it starts at is forgiving yourself because we don't understand. We allowed ourselves to be in certain situations.
Yeah.
So now we have to forgive ourselves. So it's okay for us to say, or it's easy to say, oh, I forgive them. I forgive them. I'm moving on. But what about you? Have you? And that's another thing. If you have not forgiven you, guess what? You're going to go back through the same things again. Where you think, oh, I'm good with them, I forgive them, but all actuality, that's surface. We're talking about surface, but we need to go deep. We need to peel back those layers on that onion and go deep and say,
Yeah.
you know what? I haven't forgiven myself. I haven't taken the time out to say, you know what? I've been through this, but I allowed myself. A lot of people, a lot of women don't understand is that we allow ourselves to go through a lot of things that we go through. Just like God, He gives us choices. He's a gentleman. He don't force Himself on us, right? And so that's just like us. We don't force ourselves, but we get ourselves in things and we don't even understand that we allowed ourselves. Because we can easily say, "Oh, absolutely not. I'm not going to do that. Oh no, I'm not accepting that." Right? Easily say that. But we're not, and sometimes we're not in that place to do that. So now we allow ourselves to go through things that we should not, is not even a part of us. But we allow ourselves to go through it, but have not taken the time out to forgive yourself. And I tell people, really do some alone time. You got to get with yourself and just, and it hurt though. I mean, it's not an easy journey. The healing journey is not easy at all because guess what? You have to revisit all that stuff. And I had to do this. I had to revisit all the stuff I've been through, the hurts, the pains, the disappointments, all of that stuff. But it gets you to a place where now all it's going to do is make you stronger. Once you revisit it, you get back to that place that, you know what, I forgive myself. Now I done traveled this journey again with myself, which makes it easier when it's with yourself, right? But it's still difficult. And then you can be at a place that now I could say, you know what, I traveled back by myself and now I see what it's about and now I can forgive myself. I forgive myself for allowing myself to accept that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we accept things because we don't know our worth. We don't know who we are. Just like you said earlier, a lot we got to learn who we are. So learn who you are. And how do we learn who we are? That's the only way. That's our Father. The DNA. He created us. We have to get in His presence. And if you don't know God, show me who I am. He will do that. And sometimes that is not pretty. I had asked that. I'm like, oh, no, that's all right, God. When He started, I'm like, oh, no, that's okay. But then I had to ask Him again, and I had to get to a place that I had to put my big girl drawers on and say, hey, God, I'm ready. Show me who I am. Let me just go ahead and tough this on out.
Yeah.
But that's how you start. That's how it starts. You have to get to a place to forgive yourself. And that's traveling that journey, traveling back down that journey again, and then get in the presence of God so he can show you who you are as well.
And I think with the self-forgiveness, I absolutely love that we landed there, because I think with the self-forgiveness, it's so incredibly important
Yes,
to watch how you speak to yourself. And I've
absolutely.
done this a lot. And it helps tremendously. So, when you go back and make peace with your past, for instance, it is when something pops up for you that just causes that, like, whatever feeling it is, that angst, the
Mhm.
shame, the regret, the
Yeah,
resent, like whatever that is just
yeah,
not what we want to feel, and stay stuck
right,
in. But to
right.
recognize, I think, number one, in the moment, like, or when you're looking at the past, it's not there to blame,
It's
to
not.
hold things over other people's head, or or anything like
Right,
that. It is
right.
to look at it and take responsibility for yourself in a loving way that is
In a
self-forgiving,
loving way.
and speak
Yeah,
to yourself in a way that, I'm so sorry, you know Marquette or Jamie, that you've had to go
yeah,
through that. That was
absolutely,
painful. And,
absolutely.
or, I'm so sorry that, or if it's maybe something that you did to someone else, and you can't forgive yourself. It's like,
Yeah,
I'm
yes,
so sorry that you're holding on to this.
yeah,
It's time to free yourself. It's time to make amends with
absolutely,
yourself. But it's how we talk
absolutely,
to ourselves about the past. I think that is so
absolutely.
important, that brings
It,
the peace. It's not about
absolutely.
going back and revisiting and, oh, this is why it's just
You're right. It's
recognizing the
that.
past. Yeah, so you're kind of
Absolutely.
bringing the past up in a way, but it's in a way so that you can do, the forgiveness does start with you, and it is about
Abs-
replacing whatever that is with, whether
Absolutely.
it's I like to sum it up with just like love and the peace and all of
Hmm.
that finally comes, but
Yeah,
it's baby steps. Maybe
yeah.
you go from depressed to being angry, and then, what's a step above angry? Just, being a little bit resentful or a little bit mad, and
Right,
it's just this slow
right.
process. But I think how we talk to ourselves, just being gentle of, I'm sorry, that, um saying you're sorry to ourselves. Like, you did the
Absolutely.
best that you could. Like how, we always will say, oh, parents, they did the best they could. Well, to
Right,
constantly be telling ourselves in that moment with what you had, it's
right.
okay. And I think it brings a lot of peace.
It does. It does. It brings a lot of peace. And I tell the women, um, God has a plan for all of us.
Hmm.
God is a God of abundance. He's a God of grace. He's a God of love. He's he's everything, right? And so a lot of us, we want to be a certain place, and God owns it all. So why are we gonna block up? And this is what the enemy does. That's the trick that he used and the schemes that he used to get in our minds to cause us to get to a place where we cannot experience the fullness of God. We can't experience the love of God that we should, right? We can't experience all that God has for us. He wants us to accelerate. He wants us to have increase. He wants us to have abundance. But we get to a place that we're still holding on to our past, and now we're stuck, and we can't move no further than that because we're too busy. We're stuck on our past.
Yeah. And I mean, you cannot tell me that God created us to suffer in
Eh, Right,
shame or depression,
right,
or,
right,
unworthiness, or that's not
right.
how we were created. We
Mm-mm.
created to be our highest self. And we
Absolutely,
can't be
absolutely.
that if we are closing ourselves off
Right.
from him and from that. Like, I feel it's, there's nowhere in the Bible that says, I created you so that you could, suffer.
Right, right. Now, and I tell people now, you will have trials, you will have some tribulations, but understand that is to build you, to grow you. Also, God is wanting to bless you with abundance, but he gotta know that he can trust you with this. I'm not gonna give you this and you mess over it, right? because we can mess some stuff up. We can
Right.
mess some stuff up. But he want to know that he can trust you with this blessing. And it's to build our character, build
Mhm.
our integrity. We got some
Mhm.
building to do. We got growing to do,
Mhm.
maturing to do. And what matures us better than a trial or storm in our life? How do we handle that? How do we handle that? Just like a broken relationship or a divorce, that's something major. But how do you handle it after the fact, right? Or when you're going through it? Do
Mhm.
you trust God enough to say, God, I know you did not put me on this earth to go through this divorce and go through all of this just for me, like you said, be depressed or broken, not having anything, worrying about where my next meal is coming from, or whatever the case is, right? He did not do that. He loves us, but he has to grow us and mature us in him. And so we're not saying that this walk is a cakewalk or it's easy, but it builds us so when we do go through things, we know who to call on, who to trust in, which is our God.
And it reminds me, I wrote down this because you had mentioned in your darkest moment, you realized there were two options, and I absolutely love this. Number one, you could settle, or number two, you could emerge. And obviously, you picked emerge. And I
I,
like those words because you don't hear those words much. I like that. I have two options right now. I can settle, which is basically for the current, what I'm feeling, what I'm experiencing, whatever, or I can emerge from it like as a better version of me. And I don't know why anyone wouldn't pick emerge, right?
right,
I love
right.
that. Tell me about that moment for you.
Absolutely. I mean, by the time I got to 3, that was real dark. That was a dark place for me. Like I'm on 3 and all I wanted was to be married for life. So what they said, to death do us apart, right? You get some years under your belt. That's all I wanted. This happy marriage. Me and my husband, we're making it work. But now I'm on number 3, going on 4. That's a bad place to be in because now you're carrying all this weight of
Mhm.
shame, um, guilt, fear, all of
Mhm.
this stuff. And so I call people, I carried an invisible backpack, right? And I had these heavy bricks in them, and I kept loading bricks
Yeah.
in my backpack, so it kept me down.
Yeah.
Until one day I just felt like I was at the lowest of lows, and I said, you know what? This is not what God intended for me. This is not. And I looked in the mirror and I said, there's a better version of you in there. There's a better version of you. And because there's a better version of you, we're not settling here. We're not staying here. We're getting ready to emerge. We're going to do something great. And what I always know and I tell people is what we go through is not for us. God just chose us because he knew we will be able to handle it and be able to tell it when we need to. So my story was not for me. Even though I've been married 5 times, I'm gonna tell you, Jamie, when I finally came from up under the shame and all of that and broke free, I started doing the motivational speaking, inspirational speaking, and let me tell you, I have never seen so many men and women going through the same thing I went through.
Yeah.
I've been married 5 times. I've been married 6 times. I've been married 4 times. I've been married 3 times. It was like my heart just like, God, now I see what you're doing. You use me now to be able to talk to your people because I've learned you cannot help God people if you ain't been through it. How are we're preaching about stuff and ministering about stuff and we ain't never been through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Help me help that make sense. Like we can't do it. The only way you can be able to help someone is if you've been through it and God has delivered you out of it.
Yeah.
People right now are looking for people that's going to be vulnerable, that's going to be open and honest. They don't want the sugar-coated stuff. We are going through this right now. I see that you've been through that. How in the world did you get to where you are now?
Yeah.
That's what people want to know.
Yeah.
How did you get where you are? Well, that means if that's the same God back then that was working those performing miracles back then, he's the same God today doing the same exact thing, right? We just have to open our mouths. But the enemy has beat us down so much that nobody's talking. Even when God does do something good for us, nobody's talking about it. So you know what, Jamie? I said, God, For you I live and for you I die. So whatever I need to say, I'm going to say it. And wherever I need to go, I'm going to go. And whatever I need to do, I'm going to do. Because it's all about God. In my life, it is all about God. And that is the most important thing for me. And He has been good to me. He has been good. And now, am I proud to say I've been married 5 times? Absolutely not. But I see I see the purpose of it now. I
Yeah.
see the purpose, and I know I am walking in my purpose that God has planned for my life. So I said, well, if I had to go through, okay, I'll go through it again. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know if I can go to five through five again, but I see what God has done, and now I am here to help other women say, you know what? And men now, men too. I have men come up to me and say, "Oh, I've been married that many times," and men don't talk. They hold their stuff in. They
Oh,
That pride, ego. They ain't saying nothing. They could be married 10 times. I ain't saying nothing. But now, but now they're opening up. Men are even opening up. But I just said, you know what? God, I see the purpose for my life. I see what you have called me to do, and that's what I'm going to do. And so I'm going to tell you, when I came from up under the shame and all of that, and I broke free, now I could tell my story, and now I understand the purpose, and I know why God has placed me here.
And I want to make note because, people listening, I hope that they catch this. And if not, it's that rewind, but it is your self-talk. It is
Absolutely.
your self-talk is that the way that our Father speaks to us. And most of us get stuck. Our self-talk is others' talk. And it's usually
Absolutely.
stuff that really puts us in a bad place. And it's
Absolutely.
when we allow the truth of who we are through God to be that voice that we can start to talk to ourselves that way. And even I think it helps me at least to add a little humor to it. Like, say in your situation, really,
Mhm.
God, did you have to put me through it, 4 times
Right.
before I finally learned? And, but okay, whatever, we did it, thanks. And it
Right.
just, but I think then you approach everything in such a different light,
You do. You
and
do.
you see things in a different perspective,
Mhm.
the broader perspective that God really wants us to see things. And
Right.
but until then, it's like we are kind of in the dark, until you see
Yeah.
the light. It truly is. I don't
Absolutely.
know. I keep thinking, and maybe it was just because I was reading this a little bit ago, and I'm writing a book on people pleasing right now, and I think
Uh-huh.
it is 3313, I think, but it is
Uh-huh.
a couple different versions of it are
Mhm.
if I have shown favor in your sight, continue to
Right.
show me your ways so I may continue to know you. Like, show me and teach me your
Uh-huh.
ways. And I like to kind of take verses and just reinvent them in my head to help me,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
That's what we gotta do.
I if I am pleasing to you, like if I am pleasing God,
Absolutely.
continue to teach me, guide me, show me your ways so that I may
Yeah.
know you. Because when you do, then you know yourself and you are living
Absolutely.
true to yourself, and you're not
Absolutely.
living. I think so much of us, it can be kind of confusing sometimes. I mean, I could see where I would get confused in this too. It's like with my whole, like, if we're saying like the people pleasing part of it, pleasing
Right.
other people before God. And where
Right.
does that get you? Not down your right path. And it is, you
Right.
are on, with Husband 5, you are on your right path with your ministries, your speaking,
Yeah.
and, the book. And it just because you are letting God finally guide you. And I
Absolutely.
think it's just that little nugget to keep in there, and it helps keep us present. Am
Mm-hmm.
I being, who's leading me right now? Am I being led by
Absolutely.
God or
Yep.
something out there? And just to
Right.
have that awareness as we go
Yeah.
through like our present moment. But
Absolutely.
yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm big on that. I tell people, get to a place to heal. That's the most important thing. Get to a place to heal so you can win. I'm a living witness of it. And I'm going to tell you, when I finally um, got to that place of healing and then understood what was going on in my life, now I guess I'm finally winning. And so I also tell people that my tagline is, don't settle, let's emerge so we can heal, so we can win. Because you got to be able to emerge. You got to come out of where you are so you can walk through that healing process so you can win. So yeah, so I'm really excited. I'm grateful to God for my life, what I've been through. It was not easy, but I am so grateful to Him to have chosen me and to be where I am right now. I mean, I'm still at all like, am I really here? Like I get to talk to people, and oh my gosh, this is amazing. A book is out there. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be my word of the day, the week, the month. I like to do this, which emerge is the word I'm thinking. I like to do this with a word and just think about it as much until all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm good. Now I'm going to move on to another word. I just like to play around with stuff. But emerge. There's just something about that just lands really well. But thank you so much, Marquette, for this conversation. No doubt it was inspirational and motivational and so many wonderful things for people to get out of it. So where do people find you?
Absolutely. So you can find me on at my website at Marquette L Walker Ministries.com. That is Marquette L Walker Ministries.com. Also on my social media platforms are Facebook under Marquette L Walker, Marquette L Walker Ministries. That's Facebook. Instagram, I am Marquette L Walker, and also Marquette L Walker Ministries on Instagram. TikTok, I have to come for the young babies as well. So I am on TikTok under Marquette L Walker. LinkedIn, also YouTube, Marquette L Walker. I try to keep it consistent across the board so everyone can find me. But yes, and most importantly, Jamie, I honor you for allowing me to be on this amazing platform to be able to tell my story. So thank you so much for allowing me to be here today.
Absolutely. No, I've truly enjoyed it. And I love conversations like this, as you can tell. So thank you.
You are so welcome.
Thanks for listening to the Authentically Raw podcast. I really appreciate you. And it is my sincere hope that you get value out of each and every conversation. And I would love it if you could leave a review. It helps tremendously. Also, I'm a life coach, in case you didn't know. Visit my website at jamieberris.com to learn more. I would love to work with you, help you get through whatever it is you're going through, or help you get to wherever it is you're seeking to go. And also, one last thing, I have a life coachy kind of book. It's called Results Daily Planning and Self-Development. You can find it through my website or head straight over to Amazon. As always, I'm rooting for you. Be real, be raw, be authentic.